All right, let's make a basket. Hopefully you received this bag of materials. Inside you should find your paper cordage, which we'll set aside. We're going to use that in a little while. You should have 4 pieces of wire and a wooden block that has 7 holes in it. I'm going to set the wooden block aside for a little while too. Let's take these pieces of wire, and what we want to do is we want to fold them in half. So I want to make sure that the 2 ends of the wire stay close together, and I just want to spend a little bit of time straightening out the sides. I want to do that with all of my pieces, and again, I just want to keep looking to see, are the ends of my wire fairly even? And if they're not, I'm just going to make very small adjustments until they are. As I said, you want to do this with all 4 pieces of your wire. The magic of television, here are my 4 pieces. Once you have your 4 pieces, you're going to take 3 of these. Take one and just set it aside over here for a little while. I'm going to take 3 of these, and I'm just going to decide which side of my piece of wood I would like, which side maybe is a little bit nicer. I kind of like this side. That's going to become the bottom of my basket. And with the pieces of wire, I'm going to push 2 ends of the wire through what will be the bottom of my basket. Now, I want you to notice here this curved end. And let me see if I can switch my camera for a second, because I want to show you now what I'm going to do with this. So I've got this end, and I want to just try to flatten that out. So on the tabletop here, I'm actually going to stand up because it gives me a little bit more leverage. I'm just going to press that piece of wood down onto that little loop. And you can see that I've kind of flattened out that little loop. Switch back to my document camera. So now I'm going to do that with the other 2 pieces as well. It's important as you do this that you put the wire in to holes that are right next to each other. You don't want to do holes that are across from each other. So I'm putting that in there. You can see that round loop again. I'm just going to stand up and press that so that it flattens out. If your wire feels like it's loose, just bend these ends, or these parts that are sticking up, out just a little bit. So if this is the center, just bend them out just a little. But you can see I've got 2 flat loops. I'm going to take my 3rd now. Oh, make sure I'm going through the right side. It's easiest to do each, to press each loop into flat as you go. If you try to do all 3 at once, it'll be very difficult to do. All right, so I've got 6 tines, is what we'll call these, sticking up off of what will be my bowl shape. Still going to save this guy, and now I'm going to get some needle nose pliers. And remember, if you don't have needle nose pliers, then a fork will do for what we're getting ready to do. Also, a regular set of pliers will work as well. So I've got a regular set of pliers here. Got a very fine, this is kind of a sharper than normal pair of needle nose pliers. These are kind of a heavy duty needle nose pliers. So I'll use these to start. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take the ends of each of these loops, and I'm going to make a very small hook. So you can see. And you want to do that with each of these ends. Now, if you don't have needle nose pliers, don't have fine needle nose pliers, you can do what I've just done with a fork. So let me show you. I'm just going to stick the loop of wire in the outside part of my fork there, and I'll use that to bend my wire over, and I've made a nice little hook there. So the fork is a really good tool. you really just want to use that outside tine. I'll do it one more time. So I'm sticking it in that hole that's closest to the outside edge, and I'm just going to bend that whole thing over. In some ways, some students might tell me that the fork is easier to use than the needle nose pliers. So I'm going to do that all the way around. Just make those little hooks all the way around. So hopefully you've got 6 hooks sticking up. I'm going to take this piece of wire that was my extra piece of wire, and this one I want to bend so that it's a little bit closer together than it had been. So that it's almost the 2 wires are almost touching. And that last hole that I have there, I'm going to come, so instead of coming from the bottom as I have been, I'm going to come from the top. And I'm just going to push this through. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look and see that as I'm pulling this through, I want this loop of wire to be about the same height as my other strands of wire there. So when that loop of wire is about the same height, I'm going to pull out just a little bit. And now I've got all this extra sticking out underneath. I'm just going to take that and fold it over. Now, if you have needle nose pliers, this will be really difficult to do if you only have a fork, so my apologies there. If you have needle nose pliers, you might take the ends of this wire, or at least one of the ends. I'm going to show you this here. So I'm going to take the end of this wire, and I'm just going to fold it so that it's going to go underneath that little loop. So you can see I've folded it. Now I'm just going to pull it so that it kind of loops around that wire that's there. And that's just going to help to stabilize our that loose wire. Otherwise it's going to be kind of, well, it's going to be loose. This is going to keep it from being too loose. And you can do it with both, but you don't have to. If you've got one loop like I've done there, then that wire is going to be really stable. All right, so now we've got this form, and I want to make this into the shape. Hopefully you've kind of created a sketch of a shape, what you would like your basket to look like. I want to just spend some time now bending these wires into the shape. And I'm going to make mine, this one that I'm doing right here, into kind of a loose bowl shape. So I'm just taking a moment to kind of bend my wires. You can see I'm already starting to kind of create that silhouette of what would be a bowl. Just bending them all so that now I've got kind of a decent bowl shape. It is okay if some of your wires are a little bit longer than the others. This guy's a little bit longer than all of my others. All right, so I've got kind of a nice little bowl shape. I'm going to take my paper cordage. I shouldn't need my needle nose pliers for a little while. Set those things aside. I've got my paper cordage here. I just want to find an end of it. So once you've got an end, you're going to take now a pair of scissors, and you just want to cut the end of this paper cordage. Just going to show you that. So I'm cutting off, I'm basically cutting a wedge. So I've just kind of taken it and almost halved the thickness. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the base of my basket, and I just want to try to find a hole that appears a little more open than the others. And as I'm looking, I feel like it's maybe this one. I'm going to take that end that I just cut, and I'm just going to kind of press it down into that hole. Pressing it nice and hard. It may not stay in that hole, and that's okay. If you find that it continues to pop out, you might cut the end off and recut that little wedge. But the hole is just kind of helpful for getting started with the weaving process. So I'm going to take now that piece of paper that's sticking up, and I'm just going to try to, with my finger, just kind of press it. So I'm kind of folding it over a little bit. So it's still in the hole. You can see I'm just kind of pressing it over. And now I'm going to begin weaving. So I'm going to take this outside of this piece of wire. And the basic weave that we're going to do is kind of if I've gone outside of this wire, then I'm going to go inside the next one. So it's kind of an over, under. As I'm doing that, it's important that I keep it kind of tight. So I've gone inside, now I'm going to go outside, over, under, as I kind of work my way around, over, under. When I get back around to where I started, the cord should do the opposite of what the cord was doing on the first go around. So this cord was going outside of this wire, and now it's going inside. So that means it's doing what I want it to do. This one you can see is going inside. Now my cord's going to go outside. So as I'm doing it, again, I'm just going to kind of press that cord down. I want it to stay nice and tight to the cord that came before it. So I'm still going over, under, over, under, and notice how I'm using this thumb, my left thumb. So this hand is doing the weaving. This is taking the paper cord around, and this thumb is just holding down the weaving that has already happened. So that's something you want to do. I'm continually turning it, and I'm continually replacing that thumb so that the weaving continues. And you'll find, once you kind of get a feel for it, that it'll go fairly quickly. If at any point you recognize, so like here again, my cord right now is going inside and the previous cord was outside of this time. If you find that it's not doing that, if you find that, for example, if I was to make a mistake here, the cord is going inside. If I made a mistake and brought this inside, that's going to start to affect my weave in a way that I don't want. If you find that your cord's doing the same thing, backtrack. So go back and try to figure out where that mistake happened and try to correct it. All right, this will give you a good start. I'm going to create another video now that will show you how to finish your bowl or your basket out once you've kind of finished it. So thanks for watching. Good luck with your basket.